Welcome to Holistic Health and Healing, a show offering solutions for the body, being, and beyond. In each episode, we discuss topics that empower you to take a holistic approach to step into your unique voice in this world. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. K and Hank Setala, the Sonic Shaman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Holistic Health and Healing. And today, this is a topic that I think everybody should have a question about. So we have a lot of interaction today. Why don't people heal? And topic was inspired by Dr. K, who came across a very interesting title of an audiobook. And then that prompted like kind of a desire to take a deeper dive into the topic. And she already knew that I was going to be like, all about the word why, but that's what we do ask. So it's a very relevant question, even with that word why that I don't like so much. But why don't you start us off with where you would like us to go in this conversation of why don't I heal?
Yeah, and it's something I see a lot of, but I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and somebody was discussing this book by Carolyn Miss, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she's been around for a while. And they mention this book that she discusses, why don't people heal? And this is, if we talk about the word why, and you get shown why, we often don't pay attention. But there's so many people that I see on so many different ranges with my clients and with people around me and friends and neighbors and cohorts. And why aren't they healing? And also why, maybe we do segment 2 of why do you get sick? But I think they both run hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of my own experiences to even examples to give. But I think there's one of the number one reasons that people don't heal. There is the physical aspect, yes, of things we do to our bodies that are not so great. And we'll talk about those. But a lot of it and really is a kind of an unconscious thing. And there's so many parts and pieces to this, but it's really about often we run our own paradigms, past stories that keep us locked into a situation. We take on something that's told to us, we take on that energy and we embody it and we accept it as, okay, this is what we have. So it's an energetic thing. We talk about this so much. And the more and more I read about this, and I just got done reading Anita Moorjani's book or listening to the audio, and she goes through her near-death experience. She did go to the other side, and she had a cancer that she literally died for a day or a handful of hours from cancer. And she tried every single modality out there. She tried Ayurvedic medicine. She even tried pranic healing, which is what I do. She tried everything, and nothing was working. And so she came back from the other side with these messages that are really important, that we often are the ones that hold ourselves back. And it's the guilt, shame, anger, resentment, unforgiveness of self and others, all these things that we carry as what I call like suitcases, and they work into the body and we keep ourselves locked. And sometimes we keep ourselves in a cycle of repeating the same thing over and over, repeating a story of why we need to stay sick. And there's so many different angles. This is like a pyramid almost of different things that keep you locked up. And so we want to talk about some of those things today to shed light and awareness, because it all comes down to awareness. And I think so many just are not aware, and they just accept. You go to the doctor tells you, all right, you have lichen planus. Okay, here's your cream, go home. And then it goes round and round and round. Why do you have lichen planus? Yes, there's probably some physical toxicity. But why did you let that in to begin with? Because I have heard so many stories of people healing themselves instantaneously of fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, just by attitude and diet. And
and by letting go of the things, and all the labels that you just went through, the guilt, the shame, the unforgiveness of self, all that boils down to judgments. And all that boils down into a lock of polarity, a lock in duality. And we can take deeper dives into all these different things. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, where have I judged myself or another, and locking myself into this duality that really isn't serving a being that is way beyond this reality. And it's just my way of synopsizing. Is that a word? I think it's a word.
It is
Synopsize. It is a word now. It might be a word. Not a word I don't think I've ever used, but that's me kind of summarizing that one. I know better. like the essence of what you just said, it comes down to, well, what can I do to let go of and shift out of the judgments of everything that ever has been or been told to me or been imprinted in me, and get out of that and into a different possibility where you can be an allowance of things instead of getting caught up in the polarity.
Yeah, and Anita discusses a lot of that and how she carried around this guilt and shame of being, she had to be an Indian woman that had to marry, into their arranged marriages. And she's like, why can't I just be who I want to be? Why do I have to do all these things? And so she carried this around for so long, and it manifested.
Now, this is the book that you sent me last night, right? That you're referring to now?
Anita Morjani.
Okay,
Yeah.
because there was another one that you sent me this morning. I wanted to make sure
Oh,
that
yeah.
there was like a different ones. And I have in the description of the video, I have that book, and I linked to Amazon if you want to check it out. But it's called Dying to Be Me. And I got it as an audiobook yesterday, but I jumped right to the chapters that Dr. K really shared with me that were relevant, which was starting like chapter 15 to 18 for our conversation today. But if you want to get the book, it has such a great overall experience and near-death experience. And that's a little fun story. That's what started me on all of this work. Was someone recommended a book called Embraced by the Light, and it was about a near-death experience. So, reading about somebody else's experience, maybe that is what you need to start shifting your thinking and shifting your reality. It doesn't necessarily, and she put this in her book, it doesn't mean you have to have one of these near-death experiences in order to start changing and choosing and really having dramatic shifts in your life. You can listen to somebody else's story and take that as inspiration to start changing. So I highly recommend this book, though I haven't finished it yet. I only read those 3 chapters. And the one that started it all for me, and I'll post a link to it, was called Embraced by the Light. And the lady let me borrow it. I devoured it in a day. And she said, if you liked that, you'll love Conversations with God. And that's what started me on reading all these types of books that spiraled me into all the things that I have learned up to date.
You have to open, I don't know if you have to either. If you're willing to open up your mind to things, because this is, I think, where we're all on different levels. Some people are down here, not quite aware yet. Some people are up here. Some people like Hank are way up here.
Well, it's nothing you have to do,
No.
but this is an invitation to have more ease in your life by looking into these things. And that's one of the very controversial things in Conversations with God in the old Donald Walsh's book, is that there's nothing you have to do, because everything is just labels and everything from the one holy standpoint, there's nothing you have to do. So what's the motivation to do anything? And that is like the impulse of the soul, though, the thing that drives you to start to become more than what you think you are, into the next grandest vision you ever held about yourself. And even if it's like one little step at a time like that, you don't have to go from 0 to 100 overnight. I know I'm talking with my hands, you probably can't see it, I have to talk higher up, but that you don't have to go like from 0 to 100% overnight. They say, it's progress, not perfection. Perfection is a trap. If you wait till you're perfected in order to start something, you never start, because you're never perfect, because you're always changing, always growing. So just start to choose more for yourself, and it's like a chain reaction. But the more willing you are to be aware, you can start to, exponentially shift and change in your life. And we had a couple people saying hello, because I'm getting distracted. I was looking for the book and then I stopped looking for the book. But we have Mary Lee joining us, saying healing blessings. And well, Mark, our resident comedian, is starting early. If folks need to fix a heel, I know a great shoe repair business. Thank you, Mark, our resident comedian. And Anne-Marie also saying good morning. Good morning to everyone. And if you'd like to join the conversation and comment, we're streaming to like 12 different places. The places that I know we will see your comments is on the YouTube channel. There is a link in the description of the video, and also the Holistic Health and Healing Facebook page, my profile, and Dr. K's Integrated Health Management. We'll see that for sure. Any place else, if you're watching, we might not see the comments. So make sure you're commenting on one of those pages if you like to interact with us as part of the conversation.
Yeah, please ask questions. And when we talk about healing, we're talking about physically and emotionally. And
all levels.
All levels.
Yeah, there's more than those two. Yeah, we could do all levels of being and existence, both known and unknown. Let's acknowledge that maybe we don't have labels for everything to describe what we are. But what if your willingness to realize that you don't know everything opens up the door to change that anyway, even if you don't have a word for it? It's a really important thing. So let's keep the doors open for any possibility.
A lot of people I see this with my clients, because this is, for me, this is one kind of, it's a gift that I kind of niche that I kind of have, is I kind of I'm able to see the pattern of things and what needs to change. But the challenge sometimes is because I, of course, want to snap my fingers People want to get better. I'm like, wave a magic wand, okay, you're better. And it doesn't work that way. I wish it did, but I have to look at the person and my client. What can I do to help them get to this destination that they want to get to? But then
And
there's
also,
all. Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was going to say, and clarifying too, that you would like to get to the cause and not just get rid of the symptom, because a lot of the things where people start to come for healing isn't necessarily to heal the original wound. They have something showing up in their world that's causing pain, their perception of pain, suffering, which is really the body's way of saying, yo, there's something you really got to look at over here.
Mhm.
But we don't want to look at that. We just want the pain to go away.
Exactly.
And so, like, really making the choice to be honest with yourself to get to the things that might really be wounded, and maybe it is uncomfortable, but it's only uncomfortable because you have a judgment about it. So like if you really look at it from awareness is the key, you can go into it, and with the tool from access, interesting point of view, if you can start to shift your space into a space of neutrality, you can look at those original wounds without judging yourself, beating yourself up, and it starts the process it starts the ball rolling a lot easier if you can do it from the place of neutrality or interesting point of view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you. That is such a key point. I think sometimes people do come to me with, I have a hormone issue, I have back pain. And I'm realizing they're coming because there's some energetic connection and there's something else that we need to look at. And then there's the challenge of pulling that up and showing my client that, like, let's just look at what's underneath and kind of caused this to begin with, because there's physical stuff and toxicities, and maybe you haven't been taking care of your body, but there's usually some riding on emotional issue, mental issue, stress issue, and these things start manifesting in the body. And when they manifest in the body, that's when your pain shows up, because by that time it's been going on enough that your body's like, hey, whoa, start looking. You got to start looking at this. Take a really good look at this. So people are often wanting a quick fix for the symptom, for whatever it is, but often there is this underneath thing that really needs to look at. Sometimes it's a gremlin that we may not want to look at, that we forgot about, that we're not even aware of.
And
So,
sometimes we do the same thing with energy too, because we might go to a healer, and there's some healers that I call A to B healers. So you have a heaviness here, and they just move it somewhere, and they don't actually transform it, and then the problem manifests somewhere else instead. And so, like, it's really important again that rigorous honesty with oneself to really take a look at the problem, look at the place where you're not being willing to be aware. And here's a clearing for everyone. This is from Access Consciousness. It's all about the energy, so don't get caught up in the words. But what are you the being aware of that you're not willing to acknowledge, that the body's acknowledging for you? And all of that, just destroy and uncreate anything that doesn't allow you to have that awareness, because that's where the disconnect starts, is that we're an infinite being. Is there anything that we don't know? Everything is a choice or non-choice, consciously or unconsciously chosen. And if we start to become willing to be aware, we can make way better choices with the awareness than pretending that we don't know.
absolutely. So what happens physically, I'll try to give some examples, but when you're stressed, so let's say you have a job that's really taxing on you, you start to feel it in your shoulders. You don't like your boss, you got to see him every day. He has an hour meeting with you every day. You start feeling it here, right? Then over time, you're tension. Then over a couple of months, man, getting acid reflux now. I don't know, is it just like these peppers that I'm eating, every single day? But this is how your body is now. The thought of the tension that you're feeling is your body's feeling that. And the catecholamine and epinephrine and all these things are starting to, your adrenals are firing. All these things are starting to fire in the body. And when that gets to be too much, it starts to lodge itself somewhere. And the pain receptors start firing. And so this is how the process happens. But it all kind of starts out here first. And then it works its way in, and the biochemistry starts happening in the body. So what is your pain, your condition trying to tell you? It's trying to tell you something, but we often don't look at that. We're like, oh, pain in the shoulders, got to go to the chiropractor, got to go to the orthopedic. My knee hurts, got to go to the orthopedic. Oh, it's bone on bone, arthritis. What has happened during all this time? Have you been taking care of your body, and have you been taking care of your stress level? Stress, big umbrella. All shame, guilt, all that stuff falls under the stress umbrella. So this is how it works, guys. And it's a very simple formula. And this is really a lot of how conditions manifest, because I know people that they take horrible care of their bodies, but they are so positive. And like Betty White, how is she? I think she's like, what, 97 now, Hank? I don't, but
Yeah, something she's up there, and every year at least one time there's some. 'Cause we won't know when she actually passes away because they always have these like a little conspiracy. Oh no, she's gone, but she's not
Yeah.
gone. but but
Well, it's
everybody
an
gets to those
example.
places differently. Like in access, we would say like there's like over 60 different processes in access consciousness. But like the one energy that might work for one person doesn't work for another because we all got to the same place of physical manifestation differently. Our road there was different. And that could all vary based on just how we got up or grew up rather. Like my aunt, she ended up with stage 4 liver cancer. And my grandma would always say, no, get your liver in a quiver. So like there's like the subconscious this energy of, well, where do you store your worry, your stress? So like as you have these stressors and these things that you're storing as judgments, where are you storing them in the body? And where I store it might be different than you, and that you might be different from someone else. And so it's even really hard to like looking at Hay House with the Louise Hay books that really kind of take a deep dive in it. That's a template that works for a lot of people, but because everyone's different, you really have to start empowering yourself to know that you know, and stop pretending that you don't know, and using whatever tools through meditation or whatever to start getting in touch with your own knowing. And that is what's going to help. And you can always have help, like Dr. K or myself or another healer that's intuitive can maybe help spur that conversation to empower you to know that you know, but you have to become willing to become aware is like the number one key with healing.
Absolutely. And seek out some help. Don't try to do it on your own. It's a great start. Like if you're just starting on this journey, please find some things. But if you're really looking to fast track things, sometimes you need that coach. You need that person that's willing to throw it in your face and say, hey, you're here because, sometimes we don't want to hear the truth. Sometimes we don't want to look at it. Sometimes we divert. I see that a lot. And what I see a lot of, and I've done this myself too, I have one thing that I keep cycling on, and we all have our things, but what I see with a lot of my clients is reliving the same situation over and over. And you can let that go. That was the past. That happened in the past. As traumatic as it may have been, let's work on just letting that go because it is creating a lot of congestion in your body energetically. And when that energy pops in, it's like, whew, it really just congests the system and the biochemistry starts to respond to that. And that's how you end up with stuff. And so if we can clear out that stuff, things start to get lighter.
Yeah. And look at too, like, when we had Benson on the other day, like we had talked about the stigma of like needing help. When I run into something, I'm going to my healer. Like we all have our own coaches and things, even if we're like in the profession or whatnot. We are not doing it on our own either. I have many, many mentors, but I believe that before I was willing to do that, I had this idea that getting any sort of help like that was like a sign of weakness. It was just how, you don't ask for help. Like, what are the neighbors going to think? What's so and so going to think? And so I think some people just aren't willing to reach out for assistance with that because of the way they were brought up, or a lot of different reasons or whatnot. But just know that it's not a sign of weakness or anything. And I did just post the link to Embraced by the Light. It should be in the comments now. And the link for the other book is in the video description for the one that's Dying to Be Me, which I just started diving into, but I like the part that I listened to last night just so I could be more up to date with our conversation, since that was your inspiration for the topic.
He does his homework. Look at that.
Well, a little bit of homework as I drifted off to sleep. And then I realized that the book titles were, or the chapters were off on Audible. So like I was listening for like a half hour that says chapter 15. I'm like, I thought I started on chapter 15, but it was like two off. So I listened to like 30 minutes and like, I was like, this is not helpful at all to what Dr. K was talking about. Then chapter 15 was. So
It's
see,
still all going to be
I
helpful.
wasn't aware. I let myself like get bamboozled with the Audible things, and then I cut off my awareness. I wasn't listening, but had I been aware, I would have avoided that whole half hour problem, right? But
Right.
anyway,
So
but it was really good.
it is. It resonated on so many levels when you capture one or two things out of a book, even though you read the whole thing. To me, it's like I always bring myself back to, wait a minute, I can resolve all of this because I'm connected to the divine and just be. That's pretty much her message, is just be. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, and love yourself, because there's so much self beat ups that we do. And that was another one of her points. She got sick because of the shame and guilt that she put on herself. And she has questions at the end. Hank, you'll get to that. I think it's chapter 18, where people ask her questions, and it's her narrating question, blah, blah, and then she'll answer, and she responds with her answer. But it's fascinating how it was a lot of forgiveness of self, because
Yeah.
we internalize so much, and then that internal stuff that we don't manage, unprocessed emotions that are not managed, and traumas that are unprocessed properly, get stuck.
And part of with the forgiveness of self, like with her experience when she was in this, like she was getting treatments and she went into a coma and her organs were starting to shut down, and she's in this space where everything is just love. And it's not even so much the energy of needing to forgive yourself as in if you are just the energy of love, compassion, allowance, there is nothing to forgive. So like if you're in the space of duality, then you may need to forgive yourself or forgive others. But as you continue to work with that, there's another space where it just is, and there is nothing to forgive because it's all part of that golden tapestry. Just sometimes we just see the mess on the back. And then we have an easy time to judge it because we don't see from that mess the beauty of what has been created from all those choices or non-choices. So it's kind of an evolution with in terms of the tools and things. But again, you don't have to die or come near death in order to get
Yeah,
there.
you don't.
All you have to do is start choosing things that feel lighter and can create possibility in your life. And also another invitation, guys, a quiet group. I see so many people watching. If you have questions, if you have comments, if there's one particular area of your life that is sticking you more than others that we might be able to offer contribution to, please make a comment. Mark, I'm looking at you. Serious comments only. But,
Whoa.
I love taking your jokes and like spitting them into an actual point. So like, you're good at that too. So if you have one of those good jokes that we can do that to, absolutely do those. I'm just giving you a hard time, Mark. We love you.
Yeah, we don't have to relive our stories. And I see so much of that when people come in, and it's like they want a symptom fixed. And this is why I think medicine is so confusing sometimes. You have functional medicine, you have Ayurvedic medicine, you have all these different things, and we spin our circles. And this is why I think we don't maybe. I had this epiphany thinking this is perhaps why we don't have concrete answers, and there's so many treatments for cancer, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, the details. Susan Coleman, all these things, people that are trying to research cancer with no resolve, or people that go to the doctor, then they go to a functional medicine doctor with no resolve, and they're somewhat better, but not completely better, or we can't find the fix for Lyme's, or we can't find the fix for Epstein-Barr, because they're not dealing with the emotional piece. I think there's such a huge emotional piece. And one thing I say on all my podcasts and to a lot of my clients, I can give you a zillion supplements. I can give you the supplements that typically work, but if it's not healing the condition, or the condition comes back or does nothing, then there is an underlying emotional, as I say, kind of hook tension that's not resolving. And emotionally, or either you're dealing with an emotional issue or a physical issue, or both. And if we don't unhook that, then your healing process is going to be impeded. I just have to say it, that there's no other way for me to say it. It's a little direct, but I think I'm going to start being more direct, because I'm
Well,
nice
you can be. Well, and then also if you have an awareness that you're not willing to choose or change that one thing, then shift the awareness to, well, how can I have the greatest possibilities without going down that road? And at least you start creating the best circumstances without you dealing with that, because there's things that I'm not enlightened, Dr. K is not enlightened, we have our stuff too, and as long as you still have those things, well, then the question is, well, how can I be the greatest me possible while still holding the space for this to have a different possibility, but I'm not dealing with it yet. So there's again, it's not necessarily the road to perfection, but it's a road to continue that positive momentum of that healing journey.
Yeah, but I think this is one thing that medicine just doesn't handle well, and then things get layered up. And I have a dear friend that's in the hospital now, and I kind of saw the journey with this, and there are more medications and this and that, and her liver's failing, and kidneys, and we just keep pouring more medicine and pouring more medicine on it. And I'm like, there was a thing in the back that needed to be handled way back, probably about 3 years ago, that I saw very clearly that didn't get handled. And so all these things have kind of like spiraled now. And yeah, now I'm praying that she improves. So, but I just see this. It's just something that I'm able to see. And so I see this with a lot in clients. And we have all these little levels of resistances. I don't want to do that. Do I have to take that? Why do I have to take a liquid versus a pill? I don't want to do meditation. I forgot I can't do meditation every single day. And it's like I give instructions that I know will be helpful, but we come up with all these little things as to why we're not going to do it. What is it that you're not willing to look at that's so scary, or you're worrying you're going to judge, or what would be another word? Yeah, having a blank of
Well, it really comes down to judgment, however you want to slice or dice it.
yeah.
And Mark, I know you were totally being just a jokester with this, but I actually just had a client that was in a train wreck, so it's actually relevant. But if you're in a train wreck, what would you focus on healing first, the mind or body? Well, first I would point to a clip from The Matrix where the Oracle is talking to Neo, and she says, "Well, watch. Oh, don't worry about it. Worry about what?" And he knocks over the vase, and it breaks. And he's like, "I'm sorry." She's like, "I said, don't worry about it." And she's like, "What's really going to bake your noodle later? Would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?" So the reason I bring that up is like if there was going to be a train wreck or things like that, if you are truly an infinite being and you can step into full awareness, would you have gotten on the train in the first place? But once an event like that happens, absolutely I would work on the physical first, but you want to bring in everybody. Like the lady who I just saw, she was in a train accident, and like her daughter who was also in the train, she had to go to therapy for a very long time because she was sleeping and she woke up to people getting thrown around, and it was really traumatic, and her dad was freaking out, her mom wasn't there. And you really do have to look at it the whole approach, because there could be like a soul loss issue because of a trauma. There could be so much emotional attachment to that. But oftentimes we would just focus on the physical, and that's where we're getting into problems, because the physical isn't the only thing that's wounded when something like that happens. There's cellular memory and all that type of thing. But truly, what are you aware that you're not willing to acknowledge that if you were aware of, you would make the choices that wouldn't put you in the circumstances to have those things show up in your reality? So do the work ahead of time so you can minimize or avoid situations like the one that Mark was jokingly bringing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to answer to Mark's question too, it's depends on your situation. If your blood pressure is 220 over 190, then we got to handle that physical piece immediately. I'm not a big proponent of medications, but let's get you on something stable so that you're not going to die. But then very quickly, let's start looking at the emotional issue. And then I introduce supplements and try to, once somebody's stabilized, working them off of that and simultaneously almost working on the emotional piece. But if it's something that's not urgent, something that, like a pain that's kind of just nagging, but it's not at a level of a 10, then I'd say let's start working on the emotional piece first. But if you have a ton of stuff, sometimes we got to do a little bit of the physical piece so that your body is stable and you're a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, handling the emotional piece is really, really, really important.
Yeah. And part of handling the emotional piece could be a mindset piece, could be a mental piece, and so like they're really all combined. And that's why we focus on like the holistic approach. It's body, being, and beyond, acknowledging that we're way more than anything else. All the definitions of what we are, it's not enough to contain an infinite being. So there's always parts that are beyond what we conceptually know. And what would it take to start working on those things that we don't know about without having to know about them to really facilitate a holistic approach to healing? And that's where like the real magic happens when, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole where my mind just went, but there's like so many components that really could be included with really bringing the whole body and being and beyond together for healing, shifting, and changing things.
And sometimes we need to slow things down. I know we want instantaneous results, but one thing I see a lot of is sometimes we got to slow things down and break things down to a level somebody can bite, take that next small step, take that next bite. Some people are very fast movers. They come in and I'm like, okay, we got to kind of change your diet. We got to change this. And I want you to, and they're like, okay, did it all. And then there's those people that there's different levels of resistance. No, I didn't do what you told me to do. Okay, so let's break it down. Just do one thing instead of three things. And then, sometimes there's some frustration because it's not happening fast enough. Well, the expedited way of how fast your body's going to move through something is completely your choice, up to you. But my mojo is do it now so you don't pay later, because my poor friend is really, can't even tell you what her bill is going to be after this thing that's undergoing. But she hangs on to money, and the things that needed to be handled 3 years ago weren't for various reasons. And now we're going to be dealing with something that's bigger. So deal with it now so you don't pay later.
There's a saying that comes to mind, but I can't
think of it.
It has to do with a penny and a pound, I think, or something. I don't remember what it is, but there was something else and it just went poof. Oh, I hate when that happens. It's been a long time
The
since I got
magic
poofed.
dragon.
Poof, the magic dragon strikes again. Oh, what was it? It was so good too, but it's gone.
It'll come
That's
to
a
you.
great segue to say, if you have a question or a comment, make it now. We love to follow the energy in the conversation to where you would like to go. Man, my bag is just totally blank. Maybe I need another sip of coffee.
Well,
That
you
will
keep
fix me
sipping.
right up.
Maybe I'll talk. Maybe it'll come to you. So whoever is listening, if this is resonating with you, are you stuck somewhere? Is there like back pain you're dealing with, or chronic headaches, or chronic viral conditions, or stomach issues, or what have you, that's just chronic fatigue? Where are you stuck that things aren't moving for you and you want to budge, and some people have been to a lot of places and have not gotten any results. What I'm hearing a lot of, there's actually a COVID group that I'm kind of belong to, and that's a whole story with that. COVID survivors, so they call them the long haulers now, with all these extraneous symptoms that they're not kind of resolving. Um, but the energy that's poured out into this Facebook group, sometimes I have to get off because it's just too much for me. But the doctors are dismissing them. I read these things like, doctors think there's nothing wrong, there's nothing more that they can do for me. My pulmonologist blew me off. What else can I do? So these people are seeking each other's help to try to resolve these conditions. And this is our society now, and I'm hearing it. I have had actually probably about 6 people this week reach out to me because they're like, I've gone to so and so, I'm not getting any results. Can you do anything, because I'm done with this and I'm not finding any answers here? And then it's like, well, yeah, sure, there's things we can do, but we got to look at the underneath. And is that person, sometimes it was a family member that they're calling about, or themselves? Are you willing? Are you willing to do some of the work? Because what I'm going to do is going to take a little bit of effort. So
Yeah.
there has to be a little bit of willingness to do things differently.
Did have someone asking if we could touch on the thyroid. I'm going to take this from the approach of like the physical things that the thyroid might need, but also the energetic components, because I know, like with Louise Hay's work, and I would have to look up what thyroid is, I don't remember, but thyroid also has correlations with energetic things as well. Maybe
Yes.
Dr. K knows both of them.
I do. I do. I like the thyroid. I'm not a thyroid specialist because I'm finding I need to find a niche, but a little bit about the thyroid, things that affect the thyroid. So viruses tend to sit in the thyroid. They will not find it in there. The first thing you want to do physically with the thyroid is get a full thyroid panel. This is something the majority of doctors do not do. They'll get something called the TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. It's a little blood test that they get, and it's within normal age, and they say, oh, everything's fine with thyroid's good. It's not. That's not where the problem is. You want to get a free T3, free T4, free T3, total T3, free T4, total T4, TAB, TPO, TSH.
I need
I'll make
subtitles.
sure I get all those. You don't have to write all those down. But basically, you need a very full spectrum to know where the problem is, because the thyroid stimulating hormone will produce things. It goes down below, sends signals, and it releases this T3 and T4 that goes into the organs, and it's stored in certain areas, and the stomach is involved. So we got to see where the problem is, number one. Number two, so why, and if you have like a Hashimoto's, that kind of thing, it's an autoimmune thing. But okay, why are you getting the autoimmune thing? So let's get into a little bit of the toxicity issues. Viruses will sit in the thyroid. Toxicity pesticides love the thyroid, and they will sit and manifest in the thyroid. Cysts happen because of usually these two things: toxicities and viruses that they a lot of times don't catch. Also, Epstein-Barr can sit in the thyroid, so that's something you want to get tested for. Energetically, what's going on, and why? Well, I'm saying that word "why," and it's not Hank's favorite word. Spank me. Blech. But so looking at the reasons of the thyroid is a place where we speak our truth. The thyroid is a place where we make decisions out of. So I'll give you a little example. I was in a relationship, gosh, a long time ago, where I could never get it out. I could never tell the person what I needed to say, because it was kind of either dismissed, or the conversation didn't go anywhere, or I was, just nobody cared. I'm not saying that this individual didn't really, it wasn't responsive. So I kind of kept feeling like I needed to say something, but I was scared to say it. So the energy would sit in here. I was getting chronic sore throats, chronic. And that wasn't a pesticide issue. I knew exactly what was going on there. And it's notoriously every time I was mustering myself up to, I need to have this conversation with this person. I need to do it. And it would go on and on and on. And then I finally did it. And notoriously, if I didn't handle it, I would get a sore throat. I had chronic tonsillitis. I had a father that was just, I couldn't speak to him because he just wouldn't listen to anything I had to say. Chronic tonsillitis as a child, not had it since. So I've dealt with all that. But these are the energetics that are sitting in the thyroid. When you can't speak your truth, when you're having chronic arguments, maybe when people aren't listening to you, when you feel like you want to speak up, but you're afraid because somebody might smash you down or cut your head off, so to speak, like a boss that just like you can't talk to, or a parent or a spouse or a family member that you want to speak, but you're afraid to because you've been traumatized before. Worry, a lot of worry will sit in the thyroid. There's a way Hank and I can clean that out. So when we worry chronically, it will sit here and in the kidneys. And a decision, if we have very difficult time making decisions, this is another place where it likes to sit in the thyroid. So those couple of energetic things. So whoever asked that question, I don't know if they kind of,
that was
things you want to look at.
The mysterious Facebook user. And then in terms of one energetic thing you can do, there's a tuning fork for the healthy frequency of a thyroid. And rather than get the whole organ tuning fork set, which is like 14, there's one called the endocrine set, which is only 7 forks, but there's 7 very potent forks. And it includes the thyroid, one for the thymus, one for the pineal, the pituitary gland, the pancreas, gonads, and the adrenals. So like if you were looking for something that could help support it from a vibrational standpoint, you could invest in like a little tuning fork set. This is one of my favorite sets because it does have the thymus and so many other ones that are so good without having to get a whole bunch of other forks you might not necessarily need. And she was asking too, well, first, Ernie was reminding me of the saying, penny wise and a pound foolish. Robert Burton. Thank you, Ernie. I was wondering, like, where the heck, where did that go? Ernie's the keeper of Poof the Magic Dragon. He brings us back on track.
Thanks,
And then the Facebook user is asking, could it be an inner dialogue?
Absolutely. It gets stored when you're worrying. That's worry. That's in your head. And so when it's coming down, it'll lodge itself in here a lot of times. So, because there's a lot of people that drink a lot of coffee and pesticides and all, breathe in all this stuff and are perfectly fine. Why? Well, hey,
you said coffee.
I'm with you today. So it gets stuck. But things like checking into Epstein-Barr, and I do that with the biofeedback device. That is something I look at. And I have certain homeopathics that do help the thyroid, and diet is really key too. There's a book by Anthony William. I think it's like the thyroid. I don't remember exactly the title, but it's healing the thyroid. Diet is absolute key. So for me, what I would do if somebody has like a Hashimoto's or has a hyper or hypothyroid, I'll look at the emotional piece. Let's dive into that. And where is their worry, not speaking truth, family issues where you can't say something or you're having a tough time making a decision. Let's look at that. Number 2, let's check and see if there's a viral infection or something else that's sitting there. Pesticides, are those coming up high? That's number 2. Number 3, then I will put somebody on some drainage remedies to drain and support the thyroid. And number 4, we're going to look at the diet and see what we can do naturally to start to fix this, because this is the process I would go through with somebody. And it takes time. I'm not going to fix it over a week. It's probably going to 3 to 6 months.
And it's actually Shauna who's commenting. So cool,
okay.
Cool, Shauna. There's a link in the description. If you click it, it gives Stream permission for us to know who you are, and then you'll no longer be the mysterious Facebook user. But a couple other things to go with that when it comes to a particular disease is to not use your disease to reason or justify a choice or a non-choice, because you're empowering the disease. And to give you an example, I had a client years ago who I asked her, what do you love about your lupus? And you might have heard me tell this story before. She's like, I don't like anything about my lupus. And she really got defensive at first. And then as she was thinking about it, she realized, well, anytime I don't want to do something, I always say, oh no, I can't, my lupus is flaring up. But she was using it as the scapegoat to justify her choice. So you're experiencing a particular disease or affliction, but don't empower it by making a choice because of it. You just, like the Bible said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You just choose to choose. And if you try to reason and justify it, you're empowering other things outside of yourself. So your choice is just your choice. And even things like that, it can start to disempower that energy of the disease to help you shift into a different possibility. And just to finish off that story, for her, the lupus was resentment for her with her father. She ended up writing a letter to her father, cleaning up her side of the street, sending him money that she owed him. And he, who also had lupus, wrote a letter back, said, "No, you keep the money. You need it more than I do. I'm so sorry too." And both of their lupuses mysteriously went away.
Perfect
So
example, guys.
yeah, so like it's like, what is it that you love about your disease? Is there any secondary gain? Is one part of it, because once you have it, sometimes we look, we have good intentions. We want to, make the best out of things. But what if we start to empower our disease because we're being optimistic with the disease instead of optimistic that we can get rid of the disease? And there's kind of like two things with that. And then the other, where is the energetic original wound that wasn't taken care of that has now manifested physically as whatever it is? And asking a question like that is starting to take a deeper dive into, well, where is this original wound? And for her, it was this interaction and this connection with her father. You can't see my hands. I really got to do it higher. I'm talking with my hands all over the place. I can't, because then you see the green screen edges, and I can. I just have to get a different tripod set up, and I probably could with the camera setting, but that's not going to happen right now.
But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that was my second topic. What are you, and I'm going to be direct here. What is your disease, your pain, your emotional, whatever, drama, trauma that you keep recirculating? What is that giving you? Is it giving you control, feeling like you have control? Is it giving you a feeling that you have safety, that you got this, that nobody's going to tear you down again? What is it giving you? Let go. Let's work on letting that go. Because Hank gave a perfect example, and I've heard this type of story many times. So it is so possible to heal everything that you have. It is so possible, but where are you on that level, and how much work is that going to take?
And go into it with no expectation that anything will happen, but the awareness and possibility that anything could happen. And that combination is where miracles happen, because any expectation of anything could limit the possibility that you could receive, because you're telling the universe, I'm only willing to receive it in this box. And what if there's a possibility way out here that could come, but it didn't fit into the box of the expectation you put to the universe? So no expectation, but awareness of unlimited possibility. That combination is the miracle things. And a couple other comments that were made. Just one real quick one for Mark. Local honey is amazing, not necessarily for thyroid, maybe, but especially allergies. Mm-hmm. And I had someone they almost lost their leg, and it was a honey salve, local to New Zealand, that helped with a staph infection and things like that. So really amazing with that.
Honey.
And then, and that's like the best tea tree oil, I'll just tell you, if you can get that. And even Trader Joe's has the honey with the tea tree oil. It doesn't taste as good for me, but it's very, very good for when you're ill. Anne was saying, I believe I have worked through the emotional issues, but I can't break the overeating habit caused by it. Lots of pain from being way overweight. Suggestions?
Then you haven't dealt with your issue. Because if it's still there, there's some piece that's still there.
And could it be cellular memory? Because like the emotional part is one thing, but we also have in Access, we have this concept called cellular memory, that you might have an emotional issue, but it's stored in the body in cellular memory. So like it's a combination of the emotional thing and taking care of the body, letting it release the trauma from whatever the original wound was that found comfort in eating food. Like fear of intimacy, for example, can be a food addiction, because if you were, like, say there was, I'm not saying this is your case, no intuition here, just a correlation example, that someone who has sexual abuse or one things may have an issue with intimacy, and they replace intimacy with people with food. And then but there's still a cellular memory of the original trauma that led to the emotional attachment to food and things like that. So there's the emotional reservoir, but there might still be a physical storage of that data or the trauma that might need to be released. Just one thought on it.
That, and the other thing that just comes to mind, I don't know what your name, Anne, checking your leptin. Also, this is the physical piece. Leptin is something in the body that the brain engages, where it gauges to see how much food you've eaten, and leptin kind of is a little trigger, we'll call it that, that tells the body you're full, you don't need any more food. If you have a leptin deficiency or malfunction, should I say, then the brain doesn't recognize that, and you'll continue to want food. But I do think there's still, like Hank said, a cellular memory, and either of us can can work through that. My biofeedback device actually shows where the stored cellular memory is, and we can work on inverting that. And there's other things we can do as well. So there's lots of tools we can use there.
And one that you can start using on your own would be a tool from Patty Conklin. She's a vibrational. That's who I took my medical intuition training from and vibrational medicine training. And she has a thing called ColorWorks, where you simply ask, what color does my body need to take X from a 10 to a 7, and it's kind of like a measuring system, and you just run the colors through the bottom of the feet, through the body, out the crown. And the important thing is, as you do that, you allow the color to shift and change, because from second to second the vibration that you need changes. So it's a constant flowing of energy, and you do that like 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes in the afternoon. I do have it on CD at the office if anybody uses CDs anymore. They're like $5 if you want to do that, but you can also go to her website and like buy the MP3 download. But if you're local and you still have a CD player, like you can stop by the office and get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Let's see.
That's kind of helpful. There's probably some pieces there. I don't know if there was some other questions.
Yeah. And I think this is from Shauna again. We don't know if it's Shauna or not. If it's Shauna or another mysterious Facebook user, I can support them by removing that emotion from the body. But is cellular memory an emotional thing? Maybe. I don't know. It could be. The other thing it could be is like a projection from other people. So like say you dealt with all the emotions, but the group that you hang with, if they all medicate similarly and they're projecting a role onto you, because then there's a codependency of you fitting in. It could also be you buying into somebody else's point of view about how you should be around them, and you're slipping into it. So there's a lot of different. I only give that other example just to show that there is an infinite number of possibilities of what it could be, but getting honest and asking the question, where is the original wind? What else is underneath that I might not have dealt with in this lifetime or other lifetimes, and all that, and really start to dive into it. And Annie was saying, thank you. Which one of you would be best to work with the issue? I don't know, but flip a coin. Or, on Monday, we're skipping ahead to, well, actually, wow, it's already 46 minutes in. This is flying by. Dr. K and I, on most first and third Mondays of the month, I say that because the first Monday in May, Dr. K is ditching me for her bodybuilding competition. So she won't be at the healing clinic. So I'm going to do like a sound clinic instead, like just a sound bath concert that day for people who are interested. And that's not on the website yet, but I'm going to offer a Monday night concert for when Dr. K and I normally do that. Oh, she says she's the only one here. You might say that, but there's quite a few other people watching from that Facebook group, because I can see the viewership. So there are more people than just you in that group.
I'm hearing both of us actually, because Hank works on like this level. I kind of work on this energetic level and the physical level. So we kind of do dives in a really esoteric level. Yeah, I use the biofeedback and I use my pranic healing. So I do clear the energy out of where somebody gets stuck, and I work on addiction. And then I use the biofeedback to invert, addictive behaviors too. So it's just a frequency that gets into the body that, and you kind of look where it does show me where the cellular energy is stuck. And a lot of times then I'll be like, hey, see Hank for this, because I don't have the tuning forks, and there's things you can take home and continue to work on those things with. So that's the answer that popped into my mind.
Yeah. And to answer Shauna's question, the name that I gave is Patty Conklin, who is also the keeper of my most favorite acronym, which I'll put up. She came up with this one: spiritual human in transition. It's an acronym for shit. So she's like, you just want to, embrace your shit, because it is what you need to transform and transition into the next grandest version of you. But her name's Patty Conklin. She was on at the expo a couple years back. You might have seen her. And I had her on for the 12-hour stream. She had a whole piece on how to deal with like stressors in social media. She is amazing. And she wrote the book, The Day God's Train Stopped, which is funny because she always was against reading books of any kind. Then she wrote one. So she's a really interesting lady. But it's just pattyconklininc.com, I believe, is her website. If you Google her, you'll find her. Let's see if there was other
color
questions.
Therapy is great, yeah.
Yeah. But that was ColorWorks. She has ColorWorks and ToneWorks. She has two modalities. And I am blessed to teach an Introduction to ColorWorks series, so I may offer that. But it's a really easy modality, but it's just like she walks you through as a guided meditation basically on the CD. So you get anchored a different way with that. Let's see, was there questions up here that I forgot? Oh, Mark was just being silly again. I love my big belly. The ladies are attracted to a guy with six-pack abs while I have a keg. Mark, Mark, Mark. All the places that you align and agree with or resist or react to your perceptions, points of view, projections, judgments, and conclusions about you and your body. Destroy and create that right now, sir. But we love you anyhow. Even if you judge yourself, we still love you, Mark.
Hank's getting so good at the comebacks to Mark. Mark, I don't know. You're going to lose your game here pretty soon.
No.
He's up in the ante
No,
here.
well, Mark, he says these jokes, but the wonderful thing about it is like he is literally a comedian. So like he's just being authentic to who he is. But we can still take those jokes and turn them into a possibility. So wherever you're giving yourself a hard time, what energy, space, consciousness, or choice could you be to shift that from a limitation or a judgment and into a possibility, into fuel to lift you into the next dimension? So really, your jokes are always welcome, Mark. They're always welcome.
I had a thought and it went poof. So, okay.
Ernie, get her thought back. You're the dragon keeper.
I didn't even start it. That's the problem. So I go, what was it? But yeah, there's so many. It came back. It just came.
Yep, Ernie's doing his job.
I tell people, go with whatever you resonate. If you listen to us and you want to work with us, great. If you heard, you're going to get pulls to people that are going to help you at whatever level you are at. Like when I first started with this work, I was working with one medium and I learned something there and I'm like, okay, I've kind of outgrown this. Then I went on to another mentor and she was great and I've been there, but I'm at that point now where I'm like, I think I'm kind of like a sponge and I'm feeling a little saturated. I'm kind of ready for my next mentor, my next teacher. So I'm kind of sitting and waiting on that. There's always something to learn. And you're going to gravitate towards whoever you need at that point in time. So there's no judgment. It's just if this feels right. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like I identify and align with this, then we're here for you. You know, if this is just informative and you're just starting in the process and the light bulbs are just starting to go off in your head, great, super. We're getting you from a place where you weren't to where you are to the next levels. There's so much to learn in life. It's a never-ending journey.
Well, Dr. K, if you're looking for the next mentorship possibly in your life, I will shamelessly plug we have coming up. No, well, we're starting the next round, a 9-month shaman apprenticeship with Zane, and guess who might be in the apprenticeship? Jake Cunningham may be joining us. So like how much fun could we have
today? Okay.
I don't know. Zane said that he was thinking about it, but anybody who's interested in diving into the world of Shanamana, where usually is where I function from, my teachers, I sponsor him and produce with him a 9-month apprenticeship where it's like pre-recorded lectures, but a weekly live call for ceremony, Q&A, and breaking into breakout groups to practice techniques and everything. And that starts May 4th. And you can find all that information on calloftheshaman.com. And I will be having him on in a week. I have him on Lilydale Blog Talk Radio. I think not today because I'm on today at noon. If you want to check me out on Lilydale Blog Talk Radio, that will be streaming to my page a little bit later this morning or this afternoon. But Zane will be on in like a week or two, and he'll be talking about the Qatari tradition of cross-cultural shamanism. So I'm a little bit biased. I really love the Paqo Kuna tradition of Peru, so I could talk about it all day. But now I'm done with my little plug. Since you brought it up, I'm like, I'll just go ahead and talk about it.
That's good. Is that a record? Is it all recorded? So if you miss a session?
Yeah, everything is recorded. So the calls are always Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Eastern time, because we have people from Arizona, California, Maryland, West Virginia, Buffalo, New York. We have people from all over the country, somebody that might be taking it from around the world. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty cool group, but everything's recorded. If you happen to miss something, it is there for you.
Awesome stuff. There's so much, and you will learn whatever you need, and you will hear whatever you need to hear. So sometimes I will listen to things over and over. Because I hear something different each time, or maybe something I missed. I love Wayne Dyer. Sometimes in the morning when I'm just getting ready, I'll just listen to some of his podcasts, and I will tell you, I hear something different each time I listen to these little 8-minute, 10-minute snippets. Every time there's a new message, I'm like, oh, I did. Well, I've heard this 7 times already. Why didn't I not catch it the first time? I may have not been ready to hear that at that point in time. And each time I get a new message, or sometimes what I need for that day, or a message somebody might need for that day. So you may have listened to something once, or you're done through a course once and it's like, I'm done. Go through it again, because you'll hear what you need to hear in that moment. and sometimes new messages come through. It's been
Oh. And Anne, I do see your message. I did get the email. I just didn't have the time to appropriately respond, but that will be coming very soon. So, but yeah, we will definitely get you in for that. And final call for questions. I also posted a link a little bit further back on when we were talking about the thyroid. There is one tuning fork set called the endocrine set that includes a, did I already say this? I only put the comment, I think. But anyway, but there's a thyroid fork in that and a thymus fork and some other cool ones. And if I said this twice, then I apologize. Poof, the magic dragon made me forget that I had mentioned it already. And let's see if there's anything. And you say that I have different gifts for different times. Some of the things are out of context now, so I don't know how to fit them in. But anyway, but thank you so much. This has been such a wonderfully interactive group. And a reminder too, next Monday, we do have the energy clinic with me and Dr. K, that we see you in that little room in the back. And that is virtual or in-person appointments. And it will also be the third Monday of every month. And then in May, we're going to skip the first Monday because Dr. K is ditching me.
My brain won't be very functional, so I want to give people all of my energy, and if it's kind of lacking, I don't want to shortchange anybody. I had a last minute thought, over potentialization. So I want to touch on that because some people say, but I'm trying really hard and I'm doing, and I've been, and I have a tendency to do this too when I want something in life. I'm a very willful manifester, and sometimes when you push really hard to the universe, or my mentor says, you squeeze the sponge. I'm doing it. You're over potentializing, and it's kind of like that boyfriend that you keep texting over and over, and they keep texting. Have you ever had that guy or gal that keeps texting you like, oh my God, please just go away. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you right now. And they just keep texting you. They keep chasing you. Whatever you chase or whatever you squeeze or you go after super hard, it will go away. Or it will run away. So when you're squeezing to the universe and you're saying you're trying, you may want to look, number one, at resistance. Like, where is it that you're not allowing, there's something else in the background running? Or are you just squeezing? You're not just allowing. Saying, okay, breathe. All right, I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to let it flow. Let go and let flow. Let go and let flow. And just, I'm going to see what arrives from this without having such a strong intention of, okay, I've been given this task, but I did it. It's not working. You're over potentializing. You're putting too much of that energy on it. You're like that boyfriend chasing, and you're kind of repelling a little bit. Say, I'm going to do this, and what are the possibilities? What are the wonderful possibilities that can show up this time around? I'm going to do it differently. So be gentle.
Yeah. And that can also affect other people around you and their willingness to support you on things. Because I have a friend who we call it unbalanced enthusiasm, but they might get really excited about one particular thing, so excited that I want nothing to do with whatever they're excited about. So like that also is like, well, what contributions could you be receiving? But when you over potentialize it, you kind of cut off people's willingness to be around that because it's too much excitement. It's or too much energy. Unbalanced enthusiasm is how my teacher calls that. Oh, I like that too, though. Over potentializing. Anyway, it's really good. Any final thought? We got wow, it's amazing how fast the hour has gone by. Truly, it's like one of those days is like zip, and it's like done. So good.
It's a good one. Yeah, there's more to this. There's so much more to this, but it's a very broad. These are just a little parts of the pyramid, little things for you to just look at and know that there's something else underneath.
Two things for people to look forward to starting in. Let's see, we have. On the 16th, we have a guest that we're going to have, Natasha Koo, and her husband. I forget what they're talking about, but we have guests. And maybe I should. And I remember on the 23rd, we have South Moy on, and we're going to be doing Chinese medicine on that day for April 23rd. So we have a couple guests in the lineup. I'll get the things posted, but put those on your calendar. And then we have two more people that are going to be coming on to be guests. I just have to, the dancing guy, I don't know exactly. I have to really look and see.
What?
That's that guy. He does the ballroom dancing. He messaged me to be a guest. And then I was like, well, I'll check with Dr. K. And then he hunted you down and messaged you independently.
Ballroom
that was
dancing.
That. Yeah. You didn't read the website, did you? That's why you're yeah, go ahead.
The title and something about.
He has such an interesting story. Yeah, it's like, oh, no wonder he wants to only talk to you now because he wants maybe to get a, I don't know.
Oh, God.
Anyway, guys,
closed for business, guys.
But thank you. On that note, we'll call it a day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Bye bye.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us today for the show. Holistic Health and Healing is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit us at emergenceofbeing.com for all of our contributors' content and to learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.